Every Wednesday I speak to Home Affairs Minister MP for McPherson, Cabinet Minister Karen Andrews. She's on the line. How are you, Minister?
I'm very well, Neil. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. I'm hoping that you can add some clarity to the situation. The Courier Mail revealing today that Australian soldiers involved in the Afghan rescue mission are stuck in Dubai waiting for the Queensland government to grant them hotel quarantine exemptions. And they don't want exemptions in that they want to go home or home quarantine. They want to come back to Queensland and have the same arrangement the NRL WAGs do, in that they're in hotel quarantine in a hub, meaning they can socialise together. And they wanted to book rooms at the Mercure Hotel. And the Health Minister, Yvette Darth, overnight said, yes, we're working this out, but I don't know what's happening. Can you fill us in? What's happening here?
Well, it certainly seems as if it's a very reasonable request from the ADF, and in Queensland there's certainly a precedent that the NRL players, WAGs that came in not so long ago, they've got some arrangements in Queensland, so it would seem to be on the face of it, there's a precedent and it's a reasonable request. Now, what I should say is that in respect of our international borders, there's absolutely no issues with the ADF coming back in. They are automatically exempt. So now it's just a case of organising with the states, in this case Queensland, opportunities for them to be able to quarantine. Now, they're not asking to be exempt from quarantine. They're actually proposing a way to support these people who have, quite frankly, put their lives on the line for Australia, in some cases many times in the past. So I'm surprised that there's any dithering at all from the Queensland government on this, if that is the case.
Because obviously what's happened here is that after the arrangements were revealed, in that the quarantine for the NRL people and also for the Australian female cricket team and the Indian women's cricket team, because they hire their own rooms, even though the government tells them which hotel to hire them in, they're not stuck in the room. They're in a bubble inside the hotel in which they can socialise with each other. So the ADF said, well, we'll have that. And it's been with the government for 5 days. Karen Andrews, I'm sorry to do this to you, but I just want to play our Health Minister, Yvette Darth. Our newsroom spoke to her very recently.
It's really disappointing to see the story in today's paper because it's just factually not correct. The Chief Health Officer has been working with the Australian Defence Force since last Friday. They've been in contact almost daily. And the reason why the details are being worked out is the ADF don't want to go into normal hotel quarantine. They'd like a dedicated hotel where they can have a more bubble arrangement so that the Defence Force personnel can move around more freely for their own well-being. And we are absolutely supportive of that. So we've been working through what that would look like, and they've been sourcing a hotel. The information I have is, as of yesterday, the ADF secured the Mercure Hotel on the Gold Coast. They're submitting their quarantine management plan today, and we're expecting around 300 defence personnel to arrive any time from Friday.
So they said they're working through the arrangement for 5 days, had almost daily. Well, they've already got the arrangements because they gave them to the NRL. You just tell the ADF, do this.
Well, you would think that would be a relatively straightforward solution. Look, my view is very clear on this. These people, the ADF, have actually, they're coming in from Afghanistan. They've worked hard to get as many people back to Australia as they possibly can. The federal government has to welcome that out for them, and the Queensland government clearly should as well.
Okay, this week marks the 20th anniversary of September 11. If you can believe it, the world's changed a lot in that time, hasn't it, Karen Andrews?
Look, in many ways it has. It has changed. Unfortunately, what hasn't changed dramatically is the threat that we still continue to live with terrorism. So, yes, it is 20 years, and many people would remember exactly where they were and what they were doing at the time that they heard about the first plane going into the towers in New York. And it was a terrible, terrible incident. And 10 Australians lost their lives in that. And a lot of work has been done to protect us in Australia against the threat of terrorism. Now, our threat level is currently at probable. It went to probable in 2014 and remains there. And I don't say this to frighten people. I say this because we need to be constantly vigilant about the threats to our way of life, because there are individuals and organisations that do want to do Australians harm.
Talking about individuals who want to do harm, you wrote about it on the weekend, that one of the most serious consequences of the lockdowns and the way we're living at the moment is the dramatic rise in online grooming and child sexual exploitation. To be honest with you, I actually spoke to my own daughters about this. I talked to them about it a lot, but even yesterday I sat with them because kids are on computers so much nowadays for learning. And, you know, there are pretty bad people out there.
Oh, there are some terrible people out there, and they do some absolute terrible things to others, and particularly our children. So the situation has become much worse during COVID. People have got more time at home, much more time online. They're looking at things that they shouldn't be doing. They're purchasing things that they shouldn't be purchasing, and it's just an appalling situation at the moment. And look, and I really do thank the Australian Federal Police, amongst others, but the AFP have done some fantastic work through the Australian Centre for Countering Child Exploitation, so the ACE Centre, which is set up in Brisbane. They've done some fantastic work through there, and just in the 12 months up to June this year, there were more than 22,000 reports of child sexual exploitation. I mean, that is an extraordinary but unacceptable number.
Massive.
Police that it's been reported, but the fact that there's that many to be reported, and more beyond that, clearly, because not everything would be reported, but it's just an appalling figure.
The National Women's Summit in Canberra this week, I've been dreadfully disappointed by it. I think it's been poor. I think it should never have been in Canberra. As soon as it was put in Canberra, it was always going to be hijacked by special interests and the left media, when in actual fact it should be about protecting women from violence. And I'm talking about governments via legislation, the police then have the tools to act with, and also a change in police attitude. So when a lady turns up at the front counter of a police station and says, my ex-husband's been threatening me, I think he's going to come and burn me alive, and they do nothing and they end up coming back and burning her alive. Magistrates to get fair income in the real world, and for the court system in general, for lawyers to get their heads out of their own bums and understand what's happening on the streets. That's the level it needs to be at. Instead, all I read is crap about bagging the Prime Minister, and this whole thing is a farce.
Yeah. Look, I think that what you've just said in terms of the areas that we as individuals rather than politicians, but we all as a society need to start looking at is actually very broad, and it is actually at the grassroots level that we need to start making some of those changes and making sure that not only are we listening to the right people and having the right conversations, but society as a whole understands the need to change. And sometimes that comes out of a summit. I would say that maybe a summit is the first step, but those conversations have to be continued out in the community, and we have to talk to people who are responsible for violence against women. We have to make them understand that that is not okay. We have to educate all of our society that that is not okay, and we need to support the women to make sure that they are in a position to be able to report the actions, to stand up and to make a new life.
Well, no bail and more jail. That's what I say.
A lot of people would absolutely agree with you on that one, Neil.
Well, we might get there one day. Home Affairs Minister Karen Andrews, thanks so much for your time today. You're still in home quarantine?
Yes, I am. So I'm here until the end of next week.
What's in Karen Andrews' home quarantine survival pack? Like, what are the essentials?
I'm actually drinking lemon and ginger tea right at the moment.
Okay, lemon and ginger tea.
Lemon and ginger tea is sort of getting me through the days now. I've given up coffee. I don't know that that's a good thing, but I've given up coffee.
Why did you do that?
Because I thought, to be honest, that 10 cups a day was a bit excessive. And I'm a bit of a all or nothing sometimes.
Enough said. 10 a day. Enough said. Talk to you next week. Enjoy lockdown.